Social networking, or as I like to call it, social not working. Is social networking working? I don't know. What's the purpose of social networking? To network socially, to come together, to form bonds with people far and wide, from diverse backgrounds, to, form alliances, create opportunities, to produce stuff, to help make the world go around, our world go around. Basically to get people together, engaging in one another and in thoughts and ideas and, coming up with new concepts, taking the world into a new direction, and ourselves, in truth, growth and development of ourselves as human beings. Back in the day, when we didn't have social networking or virtual online social networking as we have today, we used to interact in a more physical way, hands-on, down to earth, touchy-feely. Our social networking was, like going out to dances and networking socially. Yeah, I used to run a sound system back in the day, and we used to have dances, blues dances, parties, events. But the blues dances were events that we would set up ourselves when, we needed to make some money, which is the bottom line, social networking to make a living, basically. And people would come to the dances, these blues dances, and engage with us and engage with the music on various levels. You'd have people who would come to the dances and they might stand by the wall all night long just listening to music. There didn't seem to be much interaction. The dance could have empty, dance could have pack. Who sung that lyric? It's Colonel, wasn't it? Saxon, Daddy Colonel. Dance could have empty, dance could have pack, but where that empty, where that pack, me said they dance off a rock. And that's true. Whether the dance was full or whether it was empty, work had to be done. Money had to be made. Social networking took place on one level or another. And as I was saying, some people would stand in the dance all night long, not even moving, but they were listening to the music, and that was their level of engagement, because different people engage on different levels. If the music really touched them, they might nod their head. And that would be the only sign, the only visible sign of engagement, that you were speaking, that communication was taking place. And then if the dance was really hot, you might see them get down and start doing some moves now. They're actually moving their whole body. Engagement has now taken on a level of, hearing, feeling, and expressing themselves. And as the lyric says, whether the dance was empty or jam, the same work went on, because it was the same music that was being played, but the level of engagement or the level of enjoyment, the level of feedback was different. If the place was full, a jam party or a jam dance has a different vibe to an empty one, even though it's the same music. DJs cutting the same selection. But there's an interaction that is missing in the empty dance. that the DJ vibes off of. He gets feedback off those people in the dance, and he can't necessarily do that if it's empty. That was our social networking, though. That was the point, you know. And for our social networking to work, there had to be interaction. There had to be engagement on all levels. There had to be social and enjoyment, you know, because not only did what was happening in the environment speak, but back in those days, the music used to speak. Not just musically either. The lyrics were actually speaking words to us in the dance, you know. This is a one in one in one in one in one in one in one in. And another one in one in one in one in one in one in one in. You know, tunes like that where the words would just cut and speak directly into your heart. Engagement, you know. There was a social aspect to it, a moral aspect that is quite missing nowadays, I would say. You know, somewhere along the line, the messages within the music have been changed, you know. So what is being said and what is being communicated is very different today in this social network what we have. Is it social networking or social not working? And if so, why is it not working? You know? It's like we've been put on a road to destruction because our networks have been infiltrated in such a way that moral aspect, that moral social responsibility aspect has been replaced with something else. And now today, online, the online social networking means we no longer have to physically be in the same space with the people that we are networking with. So even that aspect of it has been taken now. The physical aspect, where I have to be in the same space as you, and you have to be in the same space as me, as we are enjoying the same music or whatever it is that we are networking, you know, on, with, in. Now we've got online social networking, you know, and these online services, the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and all of the ones that we have, is like they've kind of taken over, not taken over, they've continued on from where the physical social networking of our day left off. So you have Facebook, which is kind of, it's a space that frustrates the hell out of me sometimes. But Facebook, if you think about it, is like, you know, in every area you have what the younger generation called Jurassic Park. These are spaces, usually park areas, where men come together who are not working, and they may just jam there and they're drinking and having a good time and just talking stuff. That's what Facebook is like, to me. If you ever sit in the vicinity of Jurassic Park in your area and listen to the conversations that are taking place with those men, it's usually men, although nowadays I'm seeing more and more women joining the gathering. If you listen to the conversations that are being had, some intense conversations. The guys may look a bit off their head. They may be acting a bit, weird. They may be even drunk or tipsy, but there's some intense conversations going on. There is levels of experience in those people. That is quite deep. The problem is, those people don't intend to do nothing with the things that they're talking about. They don't intend to move forward. They don't intend to form collaborations. There is no intention to step off based upon what they have. And that's how I find Facebook. There is a lot of what I call flotsam and jetsam speak on Facebook. You know, flotsam and jetsam is their nautical terms. A flotsam is the stuff that floats up from the bottom of a wreckage, a shipwreck, and just ends up floating on the top of the surface of the water. Jetsam is stuff that floats on the top of the water that has been jettisoned by ships passing, stuff that they no longer want or no longer need or have no use for. And Facebook in particular, I find that a lot of the conversations revolves around people latching onto this floating debris that goes round cyberspace. So it can't take you anywhere because it's jetsam, because it's dead wood. Social networking, or is it social not working? Instagram is quite different from Facebook. But Instagram to me is like window shoppers. You know, you go window shopping, you got no money, but you go around and you look in the windows, and you may even go in the shops and you actually look at the products. You may even touch the product. You have no intention of buying it. You look at it and, oh, I like that. Oh, I like this. So the people in the shop now start getting excited because they're getting lots of likes. The only problem is there's no money being spent. So therefore, that social network is not producing anything. You know, and Instagram nowadays seems like it's been hijacked by corporate entities with brand ambassadors who are encouraging people towards separate and different brands. So you may have somebody puts up a picture of something. It may be like this little black cap. And then you'll find it's got 40,000 likes in the space of a day. So nothing on there is real. Social networking, or is it social not working? The like culture of Instagram. You know, it's good to get likes and it's nice to get likes, but if they are robot likes, which I understand now is all the rage on Instagram, robots, not real people liking stuff. You can pay somebody to like your stuff. So imagine you go to a shop and they pay you in the shop to go and like what's in the shop. That's where the brand ambassadors come in. And I might do an episode just on that because I think that's pretty serious. Social networking, or is it social not working? Twitter. Now, Twitter is one that I have found very difficult to actually get into. I've been on Twitter for a while, but it's never really caught on with me. But Twitter is like, I would compare it to Chinese whispers. Me here say, so and so, you know, I say my tree woman. And then somebody picks that up and then they share it. Guess what? I heard he have 3 women and one of them is a man. And then it goes on and it goes on. Twitter. But what is the product? Does it lead to any product? Does it lead to any progress? I'm sure some of it does. But the vast majority that I see, it's only when something's happening in the moment. There's an uprising happening out the road, or something's happening in the moment. Somebody's giving away money over at such and such location. You know, it's only when something like that happens in the moment that I see Twitter really fire. A whisper turns into a clamor, and then it just dies down again. Social networking, man. Social not working, as I call it. And then there's LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a weird one, man. That's the job center. I remember back in the day when we used to go to the job center and you had to fill out, you used to get a little slip of paper and one of those little bookie pencils back in the day, because I'm old school. And you had to walk around and look at all these jobs on the board. You had all these boards full of jobs and you had to read this one, and then you had to take down the number, write 3 jobs that you found and hand it in, and they'd call you in and they'd speak to you, and if you were lucky, you got an interview. Of all the years I ever went to the job center, I never ever once got an interview. Not one time. That's what LinkedIn's like. It's kind of like an exclusive club where if your face don't fit, you know, it's almost like if your face doesn't fit, you ain't getting no job. You ain't getting any job offers. You know, it's like a graveyard. And the job center was like a graveyard. You'd be walking down the aisles, these dead panels with information on it that didn't come alive for you. Well, definitely not for me. And then you'd have to meet a stony face operative. A stony face operative that would be looking at you like, what are you doing in here? And it'd make you kind of like nervous and apprehensive. And if you kind of spoke out of turn, they'd call security, and the security would come and rough you out. You know, they wouldn't even give you a chance to explain yourself. That's what LinkedIn is like. With all the time that I've been on there, it's like a graveyard. And there don't seem to be much stuff on there for me. What am I doing here? That's what I think when I'm on there. Why am I here? Social networking. Social not working. Yeah. Everything's gone virtual today. It's all virtual. Everything's online. It's all virtual. There is no need to physically meet, make any physical contact. There is no need, you know, that interaction, physical, non-verbal communication, which is, I believe, over 80% of communication, is no longer active. It's no longer plays a part in our day-to-day experiences based upon everything going virtual. Virtual, meaning not real. You can get 1,000 people like your event, and then on the day of the event, only 4 people turn up. It's not real. Work, the mathematical equation for work is force times distance. What is virtual force times virtual distance? What does that equal? 0. 0 work. Social networking or social not working? It's a serious question, and I think it's one we're going to have to tackle if we want to move forward. Done.